Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this lovely, foggy Friday. My name is Jim Bachman. I'm with the Brewers Association of Maryland. As we kick off this great holiday weekend, I am joined by Ty Kreis of Hysteria Brewing Company. He is getting himself some liquid nourishment right now. So I will do a brief introduction about what we are doing here, what our plan is for the afternoon, and then Ty and I will start chatting. Just want to let everybody know that Maryland breweries are open for business this weekend. While you can't go and visit your favorite tasting room and have a pint while you're there, you may purchase beer to go. You may purchase beer from all of your favorite breweries for delivery, curbside pickup, or carry out. So check with your favorite brewery to see what they're offering. We've been saying this for a few weeks. I'm sure all of you have found great ways to get beer that you love. But please keep showing your support for these breweries. They're doing their best to ensure that you have new releases, delicious beer, and that they're all open and operating for you. We really appreciate everything you've done. For those of you that tuned in for Sofa Sipping and those of you that supported us for that event, we cannot thank you enough. The Brewers Association of Maryland is definitely not happy about having to cancel or reschedule any of our events, especially the Maryland Craft Beer Festival. So thank you very much for taking the opportunity to join us and show us your support. Now I'm going to introduce Ty.
Hi.
I need you to go.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Ty. Sorry
Hi.
about that.
That's okay. I know. My cat just jumped on me and wanted to be pet. I threw her.
Toddlers and pets are a fun time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, go. Well, and she just came down here out of nowhere. Like, whatever. We've been talking, 15 minutes, and then my cat's just like, "What's up, dude?" And I'm like, "No, get away." And then she's like, butthole in my face immediately.
That's how it goes.
Drives me insane.
So, happy Friday, man.
Oh, you too.
Got a long weekend ahead of us.
We do. Oh God. Sorry.
All right.
We just fill our beer to the top, you know.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
What are you sipping on there? A little 1996?
EffYeah, man. That's so good.
I love that artwork.
I do too. Man, Eddie kills it for us every single time. I'm like, hey, I have an idea, and then he like comes up with this stuff, and I'm like, oh, well, all right, just send me the file. Let's do it. Like, he's so good. I love it.
All right, so let's jump right into it. I think that there are a lot of people out there that know Hysteria for your antics. I think you guys have a very playful personality out in the Maryland beer industry and in the marketplace. I think people expect fun and jovial behavior from you.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the brand and how that identity really fits with what you guys are doing.
The brand is we like to make fun of things. Get out of here. So the whole thing came. I kind of inherited the social media marketing kind of thing from when Gina had left, and Gina was doing a fantastic job. And then I've never done anything with social media or marketing ever. Like, I've done stuff because I've always been in sales with beer, and so Jordan at the time when Jordan was still brewing for us, he was like, you should try to be like Wendy's, like kind of. Hey, EffYeah, you just try to be like a Wendy's and, have fun with everything. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll just say what's on my mind. So basically it's me just being me on steroids, like just not really caring and just having fun. We try to make fun of everything. There's nobody off limits. Like, it's kind of, it's almost like the South Park of breweries. Like, we're going to touch on everything. We're going to make fun of everybody. And we're going to have fun with it. We're not going to be dicks about it, but don't be a dick. You won't be, Chris, stop. Jeez. But yeah, that's what we really are. We just try to have fun with everything. It's beer, man. Like, it's effing beer. You have to have fun. We want to showcase that we actually have fun doing our job. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's a nice approach. I think there's been a fine line in craft beer for a very long time about whether or not your focus was on how seriously you took beer, and hey, I'm here because I want to produce a product that is this, and this. I want to ensure people understand that I'm serious about it and it's not just like a frat boy's dream. And then there's the other side where it's like, hey, we're going to play this loose. We're not going to really show a lot of reverence to the art of not only the creativity of the brewer, but the art of the people involved, the people making your labels, the people doing your merchandise, your branding. And I think you guys have found a really great balance where the playful opportunities to say, hey, we're here to drink beer. We're here to have a great time and make stuff that people want to drink and engage with.
Exactly. So that's the thing. We're never gonna like not do things right. We're always gonna be upfront if we make a mistake. We're always gonna release the best product possible. We're always gonna hold back beer if it's not right. But it's still we're making beer. You can be professional at your job and still have a good time doing it. And that's what we are. So
well, I think that's an incredible way to approach it, because there are a lot of people who miss the mark one way or the other. So tell us a little bit about you. I mean, you've kind of become the face of Hysteria. You and I had a little bit of a chat about this a few minutes ago before we came on. You and I go back probably almost a decade. But how do people out there kind of trace the history of Ty coming to Hysteria and getting into the beer industry?
So I got my first job at a Duclaw Brewing Company, which is a really big fan. I was homebrewing for a long time. I was a really big fan of craft beer. My dad, when I grew up, my dad owned his own business, and so small businesses always had a place in my heart, because that's how I was raised with raised with a dad that worked his butt off for him and us. And so with beer, I just found like this fascination that these are small businesses that also make things that I really enjoy, and I get to drink and have a good time with. And so I started doing like beer blogs, home brewing, and beer blogs and stuff like that, and constantly hitting up Duclaw, because they're the ones that got me into craft beer. Dave, the owner, knew that I wanted a job in the industry because I was very vocal about it. And then they had a job opening for sales, and I quit my day job and went to Duclaw as sales and worked my way up, learned a lot of things, learned a ton of things. Then was there for a couple of years, and then I wanted to know more about the industry. So then I went to Frisco, and I was a beer buyer for both locations. So I got to know like the ins and the outs of like the beer buying side, and because I was always the guy making and selling, never the person that I was talking to. So now I got to be that person, and so I got to learn a lot of the industry on that. And then when Hysteria was going to open up, the owners wanted somebody who could help brew and help like build a brand and help sell and like have connections, and that was me. So I got to join right when everything was just starting up. Like the tanks were still against the wall. They were just being installed. There was piping going in. There was no walls in Hysteria, and that's when I got to come on board. And I'm really grateful that they trusted me to help them build a brand, and that's where we are now. So
I think you've definitely done a great job helping to build and establish a brand that's
thank you,
visible throughout the state, and I would say pretty well regarded. You guys command a lot of respect in the marketplace. You're putting out great beer, and like we said earlier, you're keeping people entertained, and that's a very important thing.
Yeah, and to me too, like you can. I think marketing and like in like the sales side is really important, but you can only sell a bad beer once, And we've been very, very fortunate to have a Jordan who is now the head brewer at a Full Tilt. And I know people are like, man, Full Tilt, what are they like rocking with all these beers? Well, that's Jordan. I mean, Jordan's a fantastic brewer. And we were really lucky to land Billy, who he came from Heavy Seas. He came over, worked his way up, helped and learned from Jordan. And now he's his own person, and he's killing it. I mean, I have all the faith in the world in Billy. Like I can literally be like, we should brew this. And he's like, I mean, all right, sure. And then he does it. And it's like, it's one of the best beers I've ever had of this style. Like, how'd you do that? And he's just, so we are so fortunate to have that. But it's cool because I can't do my job without having good beer. Like there's no way you can go out and have a good time if your beer sucks, man. Like you have to be able to go out and have a good time and joke around, but then also back it up with the product. And we do.
Well, and one of the things that I've noticed that you've been extremely good about in the arena of social media, there are a lot of people who voice their opinions and give feedback, mostly unsolicited, but it's there. But one of the largest groups of enthusiasts in the state is the Maryland Beer Drinkers Club, and I see a lot of times, people will point out what they think may or may not be something that's worth noting about a beer. And I see you interact on any occasion that something comes up about Hysteria where it may be questionable. And your dedication to saying, hey, this isn't something that we've picked up, but we're going to look into it, and then responding to what you found. I think that says a lot about you. It's not like you just take that information and disappear with it. And you guys are very transparent about what you're doing.
Yeah, like I mean, we drink our beer, but at the same time, we also have other beers that we're, like I'm not like sitting there drinking all day, but I mean the thing is when we have all these beers coming out, like there's 15 other beers that our minds are on besides the one, and when it leaves the brewery, it's packaged or brewed to the exact standards that we want. 3 weeks down the road, I don't know if it's been sitting on a shelf warm. I don't know if the seam was bad and it took 3 or 4 weeks for oxidation to set in. But if that's the case, then we want to go back and be like, okay, was it a bad seam? Was it this? Was it the water profile is bad? Did we accidentally get bad yeast, which happened to this guy? I mean, it's one of those things that like we had no idea of knowing. But we found out what the problem was: order brand new yeast. So and there's certain things that we want to put out the best product possible, and if we get feedback from people, then that's what we're going to know if like something's bad, because once I release a beer, I'm already on the next. Like we're already looking at the next release, so you just got to make sure that everything's right and keep tabs with people.
Yeah, and I didn't want to bring up 1996 in particular, but that's the one that stood out most. I think I saw a couple of comments about either phenolic or estery kickback in the finish of the beer, and they're concerned that wasn't true to what you guys put out there as the style, and you were all over it. Yeah.
I mean that so I can tell you exactly what happened with that. We were brewing the beer, and everything was going fine. And for us, it was like it wasn't like an old yeast at all. It was like maybe the 3rd or 4th generation of our West Coast ale, which you can use these a long time. Well, it just wasn't taking off. It was fermenting very, very, very slow, and we're like, what the F is going on? So we called around, got another pitch of yeast from another brewery. And it was way overused to the point where we shouldn't have used it, but we didn't know it was used that much. We would have never used it, but we're kind of stuck. We're like, oh, cool, you have it? Awesome. We just want to pitch it just to get this thing going. Well, it took off, but it was already yeast at stress. And when yeast gets stressed, it can give off all flavors. Most of the time, it's Belgian-y kind of flavors, which is like the estery, phenolic kind of flavors. And that's exactly what it was that. So we were like, oh, shoot. So then we went out, found another yeast supplier. And around this time, too, we had issues because like our main yeast supplier, Omega, when the whole COVID thing, they closed. So now we don't have a place to get yeast anymore. So we were stressing. We have beer that's going to be brewed. We have to brew beer to stay alive because that's our source of income. So we're like, okay, cool. We'll just put this in here, and then the yeast should be good. And then it doesn't, and then we have no access to the same yeast because that yeast company is closed because of the government mandates, and we're just like, what do we do? So it was kind of like a snowball thing.
Sure.
And the new one I think is Denim Murray one. I saw people talk about like there's a tobacco flavors and anything, and I honestly think it's just because of the hops we use are very herbally. We throw it way back. It's not just like it was never meant to be like this, bright and piney. It was meant to be dirty pine, you know what I mean? Like it's like thrown back to it's like thrown back to be like early 90s. Like it was meant to be the exact opposite of a hazy IPA. That's what this is. Like we make it
like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale juiced up.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's different hops. Like Sierra Nevada went for like that cleaner, crisper, piney kind of, and this was the more herbally flavors on purpose because we didn't want to be Sierra Nevada. We're Hysteria. We wanted to do that. I mean, so you have that. We also have the hazy beer, which I want to crack this open in a second. But we make all those. We're just trying to, touch on things. And that's the post I'm going to do later today on Instagram and Facebook. Was, man, we're doing 200 cases to each distributor almost every other week of that beer. Like we sent 100 cases to our distributor on a Monday, that's a couple weeks ago, and they texted me Tuesday and said, "Oh, by the way, we're out of those 100 cases." I'm like, what? Like that shouldn't happen. We should have been able to brew the beer again, and we have 40 barrels tanks. So we were just like, you gotta be kidding me. So it's been brewing and canning nonstop. So
that's a very good problem to have right now, especially.
It is. It's great.
So, I guess just to kind of back up a little bit, because we went through a lot of information there. For people that aren't watching, You mentioned specifically that you guys do reuse yeast for generations. I don't know that a lot of people realize this, but in most breweries, yeast gets reused from one batch to another to keep up a consistency and flavor for releases.
And cost.
You mentioned that some yeast or the yeast that you got may have had some stress on it. What are the things that could stress yeast for the people that may not know?
Oh yeah, I mean, so yeast can get stressed if it's underpitched. If there's not enough of a viable yeast cells that are actually being pitched into the beer. So now you're overworking yeast. Yeast eats sugar, and then the byproducts of that are three things. It's CO2, it's alcohol, and it's also heat, which is why everything's wrapped in glycol units to keep it at a certain temperature. If you go too hot, you can stress it. If you go too long, you can stress it. And if you don't pitch enough yeast and it's trying to eat too much sugar at one time, it can stress it. And all three of those can give off flavors. And if you do too much, you can over attenuate and then not hit your mark, and then it be too dry and not have the exact flavor. So it's a balance. The thing is that most breweries our size can't invest in, $100,000 labs. So we say, okay, we know 2 or 3 uses we get out of this. Cool. But what if that third that we used at the last time we did the third one, it turned out fine, and then this time it just didn't take off. And in our case, that's what it was. It's just the beer stopped fermenting. So we were like, okay, we have to reach out to somebody, and they just happen to use a little bit more, but they're used to doing that, and it actually gave a flavor of one of the beers that we're used to. So it made total sense to us. It just, there was nothing we could do about it, and it didn't really take hold until about 2 weeks out in market when people started noticing it. That's when we noticed it. When it was in tank, we didn't get those kind of flavors, but when it warmed up a little bit, yeah, we got them. Nothing we could do at that point. It was sold out. We were like, sorry.
It happens.
So, it happens, yeah.
Cool. So where do you want to start on the beers that you were going to talk about today? Is 1996 a good place to do that?
Yeah, sure.
So we're already kind of talking about the beer.
Yeah. So 96 it's a throwback West Coast IPA. The whole point is just to be a crusher, drink it all day, and it really does pair well with everything. I've had it with venison. I've had it with steak. I've had it with chicken. I've had it with other beers, and it tastes great. So just one of those things that we just wanted to have a drinker and just like throw it back a little bit. I think that the bitterness is a miss for sure. So that's what we want to do with that beer. So yeah.
So looking at the artwork of that, it is extremely nostalgic to Nickelodeon kids like us.
Yep.
I love it.
It is 100%. And that's the thing. Like, we went with the name 1996 because that's when in Maryland, a lot of big names in Maryland actually started to come around and were founded. Duclaw was founded in 96. Well, Oliver's is 92, but it's around that. They were the only ones in 92. But in 96, it was Duclaw. 96 was a Flying Dog. Even though they weren't founded here, they were founded out in Denver, but they moved out in here in 2000 something. But still, 1996 is about the year that they were founded. And also, that's when the Ravens were founded. So we figured 1996 was a cool throwback and a little Easter egg to all of our favorite things, which is.
I think you've also got the Brewers Art in there, Brewers Alley out in Frederick.
Exactly.
And the end of 95 was Heavy Seas. So, Clip City at the time.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too, because Citizens was what in like the early or the late 80s, early 90s was Citizens, and then it converted over to a Clipper City. So it was all like these really fun things, and all was around the year 1996. And then the thing that capped it off, to me, I was like Ravens 96. Everything else was around that time. Why don't we it's a throwback beer, so let's throw it back to one of our favorite years.
It's like paying reverence to the kickoff of Maryland's modern craft beer.
100%.
That's great, man. I didn't realize that was kind of like the reason to go with that.
And it sounds cool.
I thought it was simply because all the kick-ass cartoons were on Nickelodeon at that time.
I mean, they just another reason why, which is when I said to Eddie, I was like, hey, we're throwing it back to 96 because of all these reasons. Think of a way to incorporate a beer label with that. And that's what I do to him all the time. I'm like, here's my idea. Incorporate it. Make a label. He's just like, So we're like, all right, so there's cartoons that we all grew up in around that. So that's when the Rocco's kind of vibe came from.
Well, it's funny. Chris Anns and I were having a conversation the day that you announced that beer, and I said to him, I said, "Is that Rocco's Modern Life for real?" Like immediately, I knew the TV shape, and he's like, "It really looks like it, doesn't it?"
Yeah, like, there's definite differences in it because we've learned our lesson.
Sure.
There's a definite differences, but
what lesson have you learned?
Don't get too close to something because you might get yelled at by powers that are way bigger than you. Yeah. Learn that.
Hey, as long as you ask if you can change the color and maybe the shape of some things, you're good, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's the thing. Like, this is like everything in the background. Like the city is all tanks, and then the TV, if you compare them, they're actually drastically different. There is no antennas. The knobs are drastically different. There's a lot of things that are totally different, but it's close enough that you know what we're talking about.
Sure.
It's just not a total ripoff.
No, not at all.
But it's similar on purpose.
I think that there's a very fine line, and this has come up a couple of times, between paying reverence or an homage to something that you find to be important in the marketplace, or a brand that you think really made an impact on you, and you want to share how that impact was made with your customers, and just blatantly ripping something off.
Right. Which that absolutely happens, and we don't want to blatantly rip anybody off. I mean, we want to get close enough to have resemblance of things because we're fans of it.
Sure.
But we don't want to rip anything off. And if we do,
you made that clear when you guys had that whole situation with the MVP. I think that response that you had was, we're enthusiastic about this and we want to show how much we love it, is a lot different than, oh, we knew that we could gain on this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I was telling you off camera, like we knew it was going to make waves. But we honestly, truly thought it was vague enough, and we honestly, truly thought it was just going to appeal to like some local fans because we're big Ravens fans and we're big Orioles fans. But we honestly were just like, this is really cool. Like, you know, he's going to be MVP. So, and that's the thing. Like, it went back and forth between the name Frontrunner and MVP, like back and forth. And finally, it's just like, let's just do MVP. So hashtag MVP, because anytime that somebody searches MVP for Lamar, it'll pop up. We had all this stuff. And then I purposely tagged the Ravens and I purposely tagged Lamar because I thought they were going to be excited about it and be like, oh yeah. And I'm naive enough to think that was going to happen, but they saw it. So, but I mean, even the NFL said to us, and even the Ravens said to us, because the Ravens called us and they were like, it's just too close to our uniform. That was it.
Hey,
so we were like, okay, yeah, and we were like, sure. So we put the Hysteria on the side, put a visor just so we could just cover any face at all. We put the Hysteria on the shoulders instead of having number 8. And the reason why 8 was on there was because we made it as an 8% beer.
Right.
So we were like, that's going to be the ABV mark. And it also, you know, kind of ties into everything. But we took that off, put the circle, and then put Hysteria on the chest, and then got rid of like the stripes on the helmet, got rid of the stripes on the legs, and then we sent it to the NFL, and they were like, "Yeah, that's cool."
That's
all right. So we did everything they asked. Like we're like, this is no longer. And I even said to like in my email to the NFL, I said, right now it is literally a guy, a faceless man in a purple Hysteria jersey. That's what this is. He's carrying a hop. I mean.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, like they don't own the trademark for a football helmet.
No.
So they kind of had to, I don't think they had to give it to us, but at the same time, they knew that we did everything they asked us to do.
Well, and I think that they understood that there was an opportunity for there to be some bad publicity on their side. You know, You don't always look like the good guy trying to protect your brand or your identity.
Right.
And we've seen that happen too. We've seen people who, even between breweries, who have had to protect a trademark or a registered name, and it becomes ugly.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, you have to protect your stuff, or at least attempt to protect it, because if you don't, then trademark laws don't apply to you anymore.
Yep.
So you are legally obligated to tell somebody no, and if they say no, or if they move on with it, at least you attempted. Because if you don't, and then somebody else does it, then legally they can be like, you didn't go after them, so I'm legally able. Like if somebody in Maryland was like, I'm going to do a beer called Trash Panda, and we didn't do anything, then legally anybody can do a beer named Trash Panda, which isn't fair.
Not really.
And nobody's going to do that. But I'm just saying. But you have to do stuff, otherwise you legally can't do it anymore. It's a weird thing, but
yeah, I had an experience in my previous life where we had a brewery from the West Coast actually reach out and say, "Hey, we don't distribute outside of our state, but we've held this trademark since like 2 weeks before you registered your label at the TTB, and we noticed that you're selling. We need you to change the name." And it was a pretty innocuous name. It wasn't anything that was like super, it wasn't very special. It wasn't something that was like really all that creative. But it was a name that we had been using for years, and when they saw us do another release of it as an annual release, it was like, "Hey, time for you guys to pull that out. We'll give you a year to do it."
See, and that's what I was always told too, is that if you're not distributing in the same areas, then it's null and void. You can't go after somebody. Like I do know that there's another Trash Panda, but they're based in Canada.
Right.
Ours came out first. Like I looked at the dates and everything. Ours came out about a year and a half, 2 years before they came out with it. But they're in Canada. Why would I care about somebody in Canada? Here's the cool thing is that people hit us up all the time about Trash Panda because of these guys. I want to do a collab with them. I think it'd be fun. Let's do a fun, like a Trash Panda from 2 different countries collab. Like, I mean, why not? But and that's like, and it's funny, we're talking about like MVP and like cease and desist. We ended up getting a cease and desist from another brewery that would have a big brewery, like a national brand brewery, hit us up for a beer that we had like 4 cases left of it. It was a one-time brew, so we're not going to change the label or anything for 4 cases. But they hit us up about it, but they never would have known about us if it wasn't for the whole MVP thing. Like it was all over the news, and then we get hit up by this major brewery, and we're just like, yeah, so we're not going to change it because it's 4 cases. Like we had this beer out for 6 months. I don't have to tell you. Like, sorry, we're never going to brew it again ever. But you can't change it at that point. And it was never out for distro. It was tap room only.
That's what.
Yeah, it happens.
Well, and it's one of those things where there's a lot going on out there, and if you were to play whack-a-mole with every brewery popping up with a name of yours, you would need somebody on staff just to do that.
We actually kid around, and when we like think of names, we'll look on Untapped, and we'll say to ourselves, how many breweries have this name, or like how many of this name is out there? And there's less than a certain number, and there's not many check-ins. Then 9 times out of 10, and that's the thing too. Like you really don't know, but a lot of home brewers will put their brewery on tap. So sometimes it's a home brewer. Well, there's 3 check-ins in the past 4 years. I'm gonna name it this now. So there's no trademarks or anything. But we do use Untapped to make sure nobody anywhere near us has the name that we're thinking. Yeah,
I got very good at doing the Untapped search and then also the trademark search. Like,
yeah,
that trademark website. We were really good friends for a couple of months.
Oh yeah, that's the thing too. I don't think anybody realizes is that trademarking costs a lot of money. So a lot of smaller breweries don't do a lot of trademarking. They just rely on the integrity of the industry to not steal your name if you're close.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can't trademark every name, especially now with how many one-offs that all of us come out with. We have a different beer. We have 4 or 5 different beers every month. Like you can't trademark them, but a lot of them are one-offs. They never come back, and it's whatever. So
that's kind of where the business model of the industry has changed so much. People used to rely so heavily on distribution, and where can I secure tap lines? Where am I going to have beer on the shelf? And there's a really good cause for concern if there's a likelihood that your beer is going to be sitting right next to somebody else's beer, and they both have the same name.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But when they're coming to your tap room, that cause for concern really starts to drop off.
Gone. Exactly, because you're coming to this place that makes this beer. Like, yeah, like I totally agree with you. Like, I mean, when I was at Duclaw, when we were like in the industry together, like actually outside selling together, we fought for those lines. Like we went to every single account and sat down and said, please, what do we have to do to get this on there? It's not like that anymore. No. It's hey, I have this beer. Do you want it? No. Okay. You want it? Okay. It's I mean, I wouldn't say it's easy. I wouldn't say it's easier because there's more breweries, but I think people enjoy beer more and beer turns over way faster. So people are able to put more beers on because of that.
Little shout out to my former neighbor and buddy, Bill.
Suds. Yeah. So that's what I use Untapped for now. I stopped checking in Untapped when I was the buyer at Frisco because, I mean, I would get there was 60 some beers that would come in for people for me to try a day. And I was like, I can't. Like, I used to be like, let me check into this. What? No, I'm done with this. Like, so like my Untapped might not say that I've drank a lot of beer or tried a lot of beer, but man, there's
you don't want to hurt people's feelings if you rate beer. Like, I stopped rating beer.
I don't rate beer anymore at all. I don't do it unless I'm just like blown the F away, which is rare because you're surrounded by it all the time. You get to try everything. But there's been times like I had a Hill Farmstead last year. I forget what it's called. And I was like, what the F is that? Like, it was amazing. And I was like, come on, Tom, bring this a 5 because it was so good. Like it was amazing. But I don't, if it's not like one that like literally changes my life, I don't rate it. I just check in just so I haven't checked. I don't really check in. I think the last time I checked in was like 8 months ago. And it was probably that beer. I use it to like see what people are talking about it with. Like if I'm looking at it, if I'm like, I never had this before, and I look at it, I'm like, oh, people really seem to enjoy it. Okay. But then also I think Untapped's a double-edged sword. Oh yeah. It's one of those things. Like people can trash you and be like, oh my God, like you're gonna have the best, like you can have a beer like Trash Panda that people enjoy. And then you have a person that gives it a half a star and they're like, I don't like IPAs anyway. Yep. It's like, then why did you try it? Yeah. Or why did you check into it? I would say I hate this style, and for this style, this is pretty good. Yeah. And that's the thing I hate too. Like they're like, I usually don't like IPAs, but this one's pretty good. 1 star. I'm like, we just changed your mind on a style. And you can't even, come on. That happens to us all the time. So well, I'm looking at the list of beers that you sent to me to talk about, and it looks like we're kind of front loaded with IPAs, and I think that's probably what the industry is, or the market is asking for now. Now, right this second. I also recall when we were doing Sofa Sippin', you were on the Juicy Hazy panel. We were talking a little bit about how your naming conventions work and how double and all this kind of stuff are all kind of, they've lost some of their meaning maybe just because of how the industry's been moving so rapidly. I noticed none of these you have one listed as a double, but you don't have any of them identified as any kind of true IPA descriptor other than the 1996. So what's the next beer you want to run with on the list, and tell us kind of what that IPA is? So hold on. Got to finish that one. Ah, okay. Whew, that was cold. What you want is, so we have 2 core flagship IPAs. Well, core IPAs. Flagship is Trash Panda. We just can't brew that enough because of how hard it is to brew. It's not hard to brew the beer. It just takes time. It takes a lot of hops, and sometimes hops are hard to get. So what you want in 96 are our 2 like core beers that we brew all the time. What you want is the complete opposite of 96. They are both American IPAs. One's a West Coast style, meaning that it's bitter. It's clear. And then what you want is going to be more of the styles that we're accustomed to, more like an East Coast style. It's not a New England style. New England's are different things altogether. So it's a East Coast hazy IPA, but the thing about this beer is you can't really do hazy shelf stable beers all the time. It's really tough to do because all the juicy qualities of these beers come in the dry hops, and dry hops are the things that fall out. So this one's kind of a hybrid. It's got a little bit of bitterness to it. There's hops throughout the boil. Hops are antioxidants. Antioxidants protect shelf stability, and then dry hop the crap out of it like you would with a East Coast IPA. And so like a Jason Oliver, or not Jason, but what Jason at Oliver said the other day was it's a Maryland style IPA. I mean, that's what they are. They are hybrids of East and West Coast, and they're hazy, they're delicious, they're easy drinking, and that's the whole reasoning behind what you want. Cats. The feline invasion, man. Yep. She's like, I'm going to sit here. Yeah. You're not giving me attention. Those people will. Yeah, exactly. Her name is Sassy. Oh, perfect. Yeah. A Sasquatch, but Sassy for short. Nice. Yeah. Whatever. So I think that's a really cool thing. We're kind of touching on how I think that there have been some challenges in breweries for a few years, really nailing down, like, we have a flavor profile in mind. Mm-hmm. The consumer has an expectation based on what they've seen in the market with naming conventions. Mm-hmm. How do we make those things meet up? And I really like that idea of saying, well,
we see collectively in our community a lot of people doing it this way. Maybe we're kind of tapping into something that could be called ours,
right?
Instead of trying to fit it into somebody else's naming convention.
Yeah, it's like I do think that there's a lot of breweries in Maryland that do New England style IPAs, but I also think that the Baltimore Hazy from Oliver's, like that's not a true New England because it's shelf stable. I don't think that Sierra Nevada's a hazy little. It's called hazy little thing. Is that what it is?
I think so.
That's not a true New England. That's all we're doing is giving you as close as a shelf stable version of what you are craving. What you're craving is the sweeter, the more tropical, vibrant, juicy versions of IPAs. Which is why, again, we just say it's American IPA because all it is an IPA. It's just if you want to like label it, then yeah, we're doing this type of an IPA because we want people to know that it's not just this bitter bomb, but it's not a complete juice bomb. It's in between. It's called what you want for a reason because it really is like it's the hazy that everybody's wanting, but it's also the high drinkability factor because when you get into like true New England style haze juice bombs, you can't sit there and drink a 6-pack. Like
no, you're probably shot after a 16-ounce serving.
Exactly, but like this beer, you can sit there and drink a 6-pack when you're outside grilling. Super hazy. That's the whole point. So that's the thing. Like, I think everybody has their own iterations of what a certain style is. So we just say American IPA. That's what Trash Panda is. It was a double IPA. Like when we get into like like a EffYeah and stuff like that. Like it's double IPA because of ABV. It should be a triple IPA technically because it's 10.5%. I think is what it ended up being. So good though. It's juicy. And it's funny because we didn't mean for it to be. Well, there was really no like we're just like whatever it looks like, what it looks like, but it's going to end up being slightly murky, not clear, not hazy. But we never like went out and said we're going to brew a new it. We're going to brew it. And we were just like we're going to brew it and add a crap ton of hops to it. I think we're at 88 pounds. I think of Mosaic and the dry hops alone right now.
Man,
for that beer in a 20-barrel batch. Which is a lot. It's like 6.5, 7 pounds per barrel.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's great. Man.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't ask on the 1996. You said that one is bright.
Yeah.
You filtering or are you guys just doing fining?
We don't do either yet, but I think the next batch from 96 we're going to filter, mainly just because we just want to speed up getting the beer out. Not for taste or clarity or anything. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit clearer just because we want it to be clear because it's a West Coast style and we're labeling it as a West Coast style. So sure, we're trying to get it clear, but to be brutally honest, the whole entire point of us using finings is to get the beer turned over faster.
Right.
That's it.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I don't think so either. We're a business,
That's it, man. And you need to get it out there. And you know what? You run some risks with filtration where you're stripping aromas and all that kind of stuff. And
that's why we refuse to filter. We are not going to filter because of that. We'll use findings and try to pull stuff out, but I just think filtering it just hurts the beer. Now, we are toying with the idea if we filter bigger stouts when we go to add all the sugars that people want in those pastry stouts and just trying to pull the yeast out because everybody who does a pastry beer or one of those pastry stouts, if they're not kept cold, they will be overcarbonated and explode. There's no way around it.
Right.
We have some issues with like big beer and little beer. Like it's going to happen. Like fruited sours. I know a Burley Oak had a couple, but here's the thing. That's science, man. Like when people not only want beer, but they really do want sugar. And when you add the things that people want to that beer and science happens, there's no stopping it.
Yep.
Yeast eats sugar. And when it's kept at room temperature, yeast wakes up and it's like, I'm hungry. And it looks for that midnight snack and it starts eating that sugar. And like we said, one of the 3 things that a yeast produces when it's eating sugar is CO2. When you're enclosed inside of a can, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing.
And those cans are only pressure rated for like 28 pounds or something like that.
Right. So. Yeah, exactly. And they already start off, way higher than that because that's what carbonation levels are. And so that's the thing that like I really want people to understand is that it's a whole entire framework of a team. Like we when we brew these beers for you, we know there's a risk for it to be a little grenade, but we keep it cold. We force our distributors, if you don't keep it cold at your place, you don't get it. We'll just keep it. They want it, so they keep it cold. Then we go to the retailer and like, if you don't keep it cold and we find out you don't keep it cold, you're never getting any of our cans again. That's how strict we are. But then when it goes to the end consumer's house, you need to do the same thing as we've all done. And if you don't, we did it. Everybody else in line did it. Keep it cold.
Well, and there's some good feedback there for the consumer. If you're going into your local packy and you see that they've got all this craft beer sitting out on the shelf and it's not kept in a cold environment, exactly. It may be worth saying to them, hey, I know I'm just a consumer, but it might be more impactful for you guys to keep that cold because it's going to obviously help out your shelf stability.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to give you a product that you may not have a loss on because you're not going to have something blow up on the shelf.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing that we ran into with like a big beer and a little beer. Like we told people, do not, like to accounts, don't put this on the shelf. Don't do it. And then I got a handful of calls like a week later. Meanwhile, we've had this beer for a month with no issues at all. Like zero. And they're like, oh, yeah, I want my credit back because the whole entire case exploded. I'm like, was it kept warm in the fridge? Well, it's kept warm. I don't have room in the fridge. Did I not tell you to keep it warm or to keep it in the fridge? Well, you did, but I thought you were just saying that because you wanted better shelf space. But guess what? From now on, you're only getting 1996 because that one, we don't want it to be warm, but it's a West Coast IPA. There's nothing that's going to hurt it.
Right.
But yeah, like that happens all the time. Or they keep it on the shelf for a week, and then a consumer goes in, and they get it, and they're like, I'm looking for this beer, and they get it home. Well, now it's just overcarbed, and they open it up, and it's a geyser, and it's because that someone else didn't follow the rules. So it really is. It's a whole team mentality. If you want these beers, you gotta follow our directions, and that's why we put please keep cold on there. One person, I got a it was an email the other day, and they were like, yeah, this beer exploded, and I was like, where was it kept? Like, what account was it at? It wasn't at an account. Where'd you get it? He's like, I bought it at your place, and I said, okay. Did you keep it warm or cold? And they were like, well, I kept it warm. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to keep it cold. Here's why. And I explained everything to them. And they're like, we should put like a disclaimer on your cans. And I said, oh, I do. It's right on the side. It literally says, please store cold. And then the person was like, oh, man, I didn't read that. And I'm like, you told me to put a disclaimer on it. I did. And then you told me you didn't read it. So we hooked them up with more beer. Like, we're not going to be dicks. But I'm just like, just keep it. If it's sweet, keep it cold.
Yeah.
Just please keep it cold.
General rule of thumb: if you're buying from a Maryland brewery, keep your beer cold, no matter.
We're not going to filter. Yeah, 98% of us in Maryland aren't going to filter our beer.
Right.
So just keep it cold. That's all.
All right. So I like the naming convention for What You Want. I like how you came up with that name. You're answering the question. I was going to ask why is it named What You Want, but you told me it's got all of the visible cues that the beer drinker is looking for right now. Something hazy, aromatically it seems appropriate, and it's also got some high drinkability. Mm-hmm. So where are we moving next? What's the next beer you want to talk about? Those are the only two that are out right now, correct?
Yes. But we did just do pre-orders for Trash Panda, Space Panda, and Occupational Hazard Pay. I don't know. Did I tell you about Occupational Hazard Pay? Did I put that on the list? I did. And then EffYeah. EffYeah is not part of the pre-orders right now, simply because we just did the final dry hop yesterday, and we just want to make sure everything's all the hops are out of suspension, because then you just get like that hop burn that nobody wants. We tried it today, and it's tasting great. We're just going to let it crash and see what happens. If it's ready by mid next week, we'll put it on pre-order. So Space Panda is Trash Panda. And once all the dry hopping is said and done, then it's an additional gigantic, massive dry hop of Galaxy hops, hence the name Space. You know, I actually thought about doing to do that. So why not? I feel like please keep it cold. Dude, it's just like, for me, like, I want to have like Billy on the label of him crying and just saying please keep cold, because he gets his feelings hurt. We always feel bad. I'm like, Billy, you didn't do anything wrong. Like, you brewed what people want. Like, this is how you have to do it. But so Space Panda is Trash Panda, and then dry hops with Galaxy. So Galaxy is one of everybody's favorite hops. Downside is it's just expensive and it's hard to get because they're just not allowed to go around. So that's why it doesn't come out all the time. And it is pricey. I mean, you're looking, like normal hops, like Citra used to be like $30 a pound. So it's like $20 some a pound, whereas sometimes we've seen Galaxy upwards of $40 a pound. And we're dry hopping this beer with, 100 pounds. So it's that much money in just the dry hops. That's not including anything else. It's not including anything. So when you start seeing beer prices, like these really crazy IPAs, and you're like, why is it $20 or $40? That's why, man. Like these hops are hard to get, and it just costs more.
Well, so why don't we talk a little bit about kind of how the hop marketplace works? This is a good opportunity to really talk about kind of the business of building beer in the brewery for people who may not really know. So hops are typically purchased before harvest, and they're contracted for certain allotments. You buy it by weight, and then somebody brews a beer that has a kick-ass hop profile, and every other brewery in the country hears about it, and they want those hops, and they're not in their current allotment.
There's this much of it, and all people want it. And then, what do you do? And that's the thing. Like, and on top of that, hop growers only grow a certain amount of certain styles of hops per year. That's all they can do. So if they only, let's just say before like a Citra was really popular, they would only grow, make an easy number. Let's say they only grew 10 pounds of it. And then they sold those 10 pounds to one person. They make a really awesome beer. And like you're saying, all these other brewers are like, oh man, I want to do that. And that grower's like, I only grew 10 pounds. It's gone. So next year they do
that 9 pounds left.
Yeah, exactly. And then they do, more of it, and then but more breweries do it, and then now they're taking their farm up to brew this one varietal. But we're like, no, we like that, but what about El Dorado? And then they're like, shoot, we need this now. So it's always this shift that's going back and forth, and there's only a certain amount of hops to be had. There's only a certain amount of farms that are in the world, and almost all the hops are sold to a third-party company that the breweries buy from. So not only do the farmers have to know how much to grow, the third-party company has to know how much to buy, and then it's supply and demand. A thing like Galaxy probably didn't cost that much for. I'm like 10 years ago, Galaxy, or whenever it first came out, it was nothing. Right. Now it's one of the most expensive hops in the entire world because everybody wants it. Now there's more of it available, and it's still expensive because everybody wants it.
Well, and they're all getting it on the spot market with the second turn through a broker instead of buying it on the contract the first time through.
Exactly, and that's the thing too. Like you have to know what beers you're brewing with certain hops throughout the whole entire year, which is tough too for a local brewery like us, for a smaller brewery, because we don't know what we're brewing until like 3 months in advance. We're like, okay, now let's try to source everything. For us, we don't even have contracts yet. Should we get contracts? They probably should, because we always use citrus in almost everything. But Galaxy's not. I mean, Galaxy is tough to get even contracts for. So it's one of those things that, like, I know people ask us, why don't you have this beer? Why don't you have this beer? Oh, I can't get the hops. That's why. So which is why one of the reasons with like What You Want, we were so excited about is that we use Idaho 7 as one of the dry hops, and a lot of brewers don't use that. For whatever reason, it goes great in this beer, but it's like $8 a pound, and it's widely available. And we're like, this is great. Like, we can brew this beer all the time, and it's not going to cost us an arm and a leg. And what if we don't have it? Like when I was at Duke Club, we did a beer that was called Hellraiser. And Hellraiser was a single hop IPA, and it was all Motueka, which is a New Zealand hop. It's really good. Well, the reason why that Duke Club stopped brewing that beer, they couldn't get the hops for it. They just couldn't find enough. So instead of just being like, yeah, it's still Motueka and it's a different hop, that's a lie. So you just cut the beer. That's done. Like, you can't get enough hops for it. And that's why some people's favorite IPAs do go away, is because you physically can't find the hops for it.
I think that's an important thing for people to understand. And it's not only that, some people may say, oh, well, this brewery's putting out 5 beers that may look very similar when you see them in a glass, or when you talk about what the flavor profile is and all that kind of stuff. And it's not necessarily that you're trying to brew 5 beers that are all trying to hit the same thing, but you're brewing 5 beers that are kind of trying to tell the same story with what ingredients you have available.
So I think that is a perfect time to talk about what the hazy juicy panel is doing with the collaboration between Hysteria, um, uh, Uncapped Podcast, Oliver, and A True Respite. Is that we are doing a beer that is all the exact same base beer. Everything is identical, and then it's going to showcase how water profile at each location and different dry hops make it a drastically different beer. So it's the exact same base beer, totally down to everything, and then we're all going to dry hop it different with different hops.
I love
so
it.
You get to see how much different all these different really cool hops are. I'm not sure what I think. I have ideas what the other guys are doing, and that's up to them to talk about. We are just looking for something we've never used before, so we're still doing research. We're just looking for hops we've never ever used, even some experimental ones, and we're trying to find our way into a lot of the experimental ones. You don't really get a lot of, but there are places that you can like scrounge around at, like even like the homebrew store, that we're gonna see we can buy up a bunch just to be able to dry hop with a hop we never used before. So, which I think is cool, because I think that even during like the juicy hazy panelists we talked about, like what separates each beer from each other, and we're all saying water profile, dry hopping, rate of dry hopping, how it's dry hopped, and for us, like that's what we're going to showcase is same base beer, different breweries, different nuances. Here it is. So,
I think that's a great idea. And for those of you that weren't watching Sofa Sippin', this was an idea that just popped out of Ty's mouth in the middle of the conversation, and I guess now it's happening for real.
Yeah.
I was asked by Chris to go out and get that piece of footage and get it to him, so I still owe it to him. But he wants you on record saying we're going to do this.
I mean, we are like we already had like multiple conversations about it. Like, I know we're going to try to brew it in the next couple weeks. Is the goal.
That's awesome.
But it's just it was funny because like none of us knew that we were gonna. I don't know. I was gonna bring it up, but I was just like, hey, this would be cool. Let's just do it. And then they're all like cool enough to agree, but I just think it's funny. Like,
yeah,
I mean, why not do it? Like, if we're on a panel about hazy beers, let's just do a panel beer.
Yeah,
so,
and have something to talk about, and it gives you an opportunity to talk about the story behind it. Hey,
exactly.
Our association had this thing, and we had a chance to talk about it here, and we did it in front of a couple hundred people, and they all seemed to think it was pretty cool.
Yeah, which I thought was really cool. People were like, yeah, EffYeah. I was just like, all right, that's a good idea.
All right, well, I guess I just dug that hole.
All right, yeah. Every now and then I get something right, and I was excited about it. I'm so excited about it.
Well, and you had instant buy-in from people that, I think you guys all respect each other. The colleagues that you had that were on that panel were great. Jason and Brendan are great guys, and I think
great. Yeah,
it's gonna be so much fun.
Chris is a dick, but I love him.
Yeah, Chris is a great guy. He's always done his best for the industry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that he has, not for me, but
not for you personally.
Yeah, not for me personally.
All right, tell us about EffYeah. I mean, you kind of went into the ABV and it being more like a triple based on that, but what are we talking about flavor wise, and what's the goal with that beer?
Well, I'll say this: it is all mosaic hops. Everything in it is a mosaic hops. Our coffee guy that we brew a coffee for all the time, he came in the other day, and it was in the middle. I can't remember if it was in the middle of the first dry hop or we were just transferring over. I forget what it was. It was within like that day or two. And he was like, "Are you guys brewing with pineapple?" And we're like, "No, man, that's just mosaic." It is like a juice bomb. I mean, like it smells like pineapples every time we pour a glass. Like it's really cool. It's the whole EffYeah thing kind of happened like naturally too, like organically, I should say, because I was just having fun with a couple of videos, just saying EffYeah in it, and then we started to see like people started tagging Hysteria beers and saying EffYeah, and I was like, well, let's just run with it, and let's just like now it's our motto, like that's our catchphrase now. So it's just like Hysteria Brewing EffYeah, and it's just like something dumb, kind of stupid, but then we're like, we have to do a beer name with it, so we just were like, all right, what we want to do, and we're like, let's just do a big boozy, massively dry hopped IPA and have fun with it. And so me and Billy sat down. It was a recipe that I had a long time ago. And then I told Billy, I was like, I love mosaic. It's an all mosaic, like Imperial IPA. Can you do what you do to something like this? And he looked at it. And he was like, no, I really like this recipe. And he's like, I'm going to tweak a couple things. I'm going to make it like my spin on it, and let's do it. And I was like, let's do it. It's like, well, I mean, it's just really cool. Like the recipe's kind of been there for a long time. It's just now I get to have Billy take one of my recipes and do it the Billy way, which is going to be effing amazing. So we're really stoked about it.
Is there you see a blueprint for EffYeah to become a series?
I don't know.
Single hop big beers.
Yeah, like I actually thought about that the other day too. Instead of just being like a mosaic, so like I wasn't sure if we're gonna keep EffYeah as like a beer that we release, like seasonally or like twice a year, or if we're gonna do like a whole entire series around like different hops, which I do like that. Like, I mean, I think it'd be really cool because Billy is one of the guys that kind of likes like having fun with all of the like different hop varietals that we've never used before. So I think it'd be really cool to do that. I can see Chris saying that I'm hurtful, but it's all in love. Like when you love somebody, then you don't hurt them. I mean, sometimes you hurt them. You don't mean to. In this case, I actually meant to, but I still love you.
All right, you guys are.
There's a lot of comments over here.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people chatting, man.
Jeez. Oh God. I'm just looking through. I didn't get a chance to look at all these.
There's some people that really like Sasquatch. I think Sassy's a really nice cat.
She is a very nice cat. She's asleep. Hey, Sassy, can you say meow? No, she just rolled her eyes at me.
She doesn't speak on demand, huh?
Yeah, she was like, F you. I was like, jeez.
All right, one last beer. We've got a couple of minutes before we wrap up. There's one last beer you were telling me about, and this is Occupational Hazard Pay. This one is available for pre-order right now.
Yes.
It's a Belgian strong golden ale. What's this all about?
Yep. So we were like, it'd be really fun just to do a beer. We're all sitting at home. We're not really doing much. A lot of places aren't open, so a lot of people are just home drinking. So there's a lot of people that are home drinking to get drunk. Like, let's be honest. So we're like, let's do a beer that's easy for you to have a good time and drink easy, but be a really big beer. So basically, Occupational Hazard Pay is just paying tribute to not just us. It's everybody. Like the label is every one of our current employees that are working for us that are on the label. And it's just showcasing that these people are coming in every single day and they're helping out and they're doing deliveries, they're doing hand labeling, helping with canning, they're doing the tap room, they're getting everybody's orders ready, they're doing all that, and they are putting themselves in harm's way by working during a pandemic. And they don't have to come in, they don't have to do this. So we figured since we don't actually give them occupational hazard pay, we could put them on a label. So that's the whole point of this. So yeah, we just try to get everybody on a label, have fun with it. So it's a Belgian Golden Strong. There's literally nothing crazy about this beer. It's just very tasty, very easy drinking, and it's 8.6%, closer to 9, but really good.
There you go. So you've got a nice big beer, something that tells a story about your staff, the guys and gals that are making this all possible in your business, and that's what it's all about. That's the whole.
We can't do anything without the people that work for Hysteria. You can have ideas, you can have concepts, but if you don't have people that can actually execute all those concepts and ideas and help carry them through, then you're literally an idea manufacturer, and that's about it. And that's not what we are.
You're a brewery.
So we're a brewery, and we need people.
There you go.
So.
Well, as always, I have very much appreciated talking to you. You have been I've been a big fan of yours, and I think that we've had a good mutual respect for several years.
Yeah, especially since you got kicked out of the hotel room that one time.
So yeah, Ty and I had an interesting evening once in Roanoke, Virginia, and I ended up getting kicked out of a hotel room party.
It was a beer share. I'll never forget it. Yeah. First of all, just give me like 2 minutes to tell this story because it's one of my favorite stories ever. Jim is like 7'8". Okay, he is an extremely tall person, and so me and him get invited to a bottle share of all these rare beers. It was a Dark Lord variants, right?
Yep, vertical.
It was vertical. It was like 5 years, and these people like stood in line for forever for these beers for over the course of years. And so they're like, hey, do you guys want to come and hang out? Like, we're big fans of your breweries because we're both from Maryland and this is in Roanoke, Virginia. This is so far like south that everybody has southern accents. And I was shocked when I was talking to people. I felt like I was in the deep south. And these people were like, you guys should come hang out with us. And we're like, all right, yeah, we have nothing to do. So we all like go our separate ways, shower and everything, and then me and Jen meet up, and then we knock on this door into this hallway, and it's a locked hallway to even get into this place. And so they're like, "Come on in." They're like, "We're so excited you guys are here." We're like, "Man, this is cool." So we like go in there, and they have a legit like really cool bottle share going on.
Yeah,
and they're just like, "Try it," and we're drinking it. And then all Jim said was, "Man, I just don't know if it's worth the hype." That was it. And this dude, he was about to effing fight Jim. And he was shorter than me, and I'm not a tall person. And he's looking up at Jim. He's like, "What'd you say?" And Jim's like, I just said it's not worth the hype. This dude, I mean, he was screaming. He was red. He was sweating. I thought he was going to kill somebody. I thought he was going to take the bottle of Dark Lord, chug it, bash it on the ground, pick it up, and slit your throat. Jump into it. But I was just like, I can't believe this is happening right now. And then they were like, you can just get out. And Jim was like, I don't want to be here. And I was like, I'm going too. So we left.
The moral of the story is, don't share your feelings about beer with people who might be really into their beer.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was an interesting way. That was actually my birthday. And
it was, yeah.
We were down there for Micro Festivus, a great festival down there.
That was crazy. Yeah, but they also were giving away pints.
Yeah.
People were drinking pints of Serum, Duclaw Serum, which is a 9% double IPA. I watched somebody trip and fall on what's it called? A train, a railroad. They tripped and fell, hit their head, blood everywhere, and then the cops came over to help him up, and he started fighting the cops.
That was it was a bizarre festival for sure.
Yeah, I just drank more Serum and laughed.
So I did actually run into that guy the next day. He was representing another brewery, and they asked him not to pour because the owner was in the room when that happened. So they said, "You can't pour for us tomorrow."
Dude, that's hard.
And he didn't remember any of it. He didn't remember who I was. He didn't remember having anybody in that hotel room. I was just like, "Hey, dude, how you doing? Hope everything's better after last night." Like, wasn't trying to. He's like, "Did I talk to you last night?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So,
wow.
I hope things got better for that guy.
Yeah. I still remember his face too. Poor guy.
Yeah.
I mean, not poor, but good. Whatever.
The brewery he was with had some great beer, so
they really did. That's why I was excited that we were going to hang out with him. I was like, "Oh yeah."
Looking forward to it.
I didn't know you worked there. I thought you were just a volunteer. Jeez,
I think he was like a taproom fan that they had coming to help pour.
Oops.
Yeah, I don't know that he got invited back.
Yeah, he was an angry person.
Well, ever since that day, Ty and I have had a very fun story to talk about it.
It's one of my favorite stories. So
every time we have a beer, that story comes up. So
yep, I love it.
It came up here.
Me too.
All right. Well, what do you guys have going on this weekend? You're open for the public to come in and get beer. You guys are doing some deliveries. What's going on?
Yep. Saturday, Sunday open. Monday we are open 11 to 3. Not doing deliveries on Monday because we're going to be out drinking with our family. But if you want beer, make sure you get it tomorrow and Sunday, or you can stop by Monday for to-go beers 11 to 3. Because the whole entire point of a holiday is to spend it with your family and drink. So that's what Monday is. So if you want beer, Saturday, Sunday, order now.
And order your pre-orders now. They're going to deliver all of the pre-orders on June 1st.
All the pre-orders are going on June 1st. Right now, we're at 65 deliveries. I'm 66. Oh, God. So I'm stressing. I have like 5 people coming in. We are almost sold out of Space Panda. There wasn't a ton to begin with. I mean, it was a lot, but we're almost out of Space Panda. So if you want Space or Trash Panda, I would highly recommend doing it now.
Where do they pre-order that?
beerme.com/brewery/hysteria.
Perfect. And you guys know that Hysteria is putting out some great stuff. You guys know Ty's funny. The whole crew over there is great. Everybody at the brewery is awesome. They do everything they can to support you guys as beer drinkers. Please show them your love. They are huge supporters of the Brewers Association of Maryland, and we can't thank them enough. So keep kicking ass, man. I love you very much. It's been great to talk to you.
You know what? You're just a pleasure to even look at, you know?
Hey, man, I appreciate that.
Oh, anytime.
All right. Everybody that's out there, please have a safe weekend. Put in your pre-orders for beer at all of your favorite breweries. Order whatever they have available. See if they can deliver to you. Go pick up from them. Be safe this weekend. Enjoy your loved ones, and we'll see you next week. Thank you all very much. Visit marylandbeer.org for any other questions you might have about the Brewers Association of Maryland or beer in the state. Talk to you all soon.
Cheers.